So, could somebody tell me how other channels can play whole clips or whole parts of episodes and there be no copyright issues? I would love to do that. But, I mean, no one's watching my channel anyway. But I would love to know how. I guess they're powerful or that maybe they pay fees or do something. I have no idea what they do. Look, come here. My co host is upset that I'm not on the couch because she can't sit next to me. So she's going to play with all the wires while I talk to you and distract mommy. Welcome to the D. Louise book series. I'm Christina Kristina. This is where we read books, talk about books, no special effects, no theme music, no fancy stuff going on here. And every Friday we recap an episode of Star Trek Next Generation. We will move on to Voyager after this. I cannot believe we are on season 6, disc 7, episode 251. And I'm also a little annoyed at myself because I did not know this book existed earlier. And this would have been so much fun to have earlier. And it does not exist for season 7. Hey, Phil Farrand, why doesn't this book exist for season 7? Nitpickers. So we've only got 2 more episodes to nitpick, and then it's the end of this book. And I've only had it for 2-3 weeks. So it's just I would have loved this book earlier. Loved it. I may just go through it as a recap. I may just go through the book because it's such a good book. I enjoyed the heck out of it. So if you could hit the like and subscribe, I'd appreciate it. Don't forget, if then's later this afternoon. If you like this author, you might like that author. We're heavily into Valentine's this month, so check those out. And Flashback Mondays, where we talk about all the books in Romantic Time Book Review Magazine. We do sci-fi, we do contemporary romance, Regency, paranormal, whole 9 yards. Talk about over. I think the other day I got carried away, and I think it pushed 80 or 90 books. But we are on. I think I need to change my ink. Did your printer? My printer needs ink. But it knows it needs ink. But it won't slide the thingy over so you can change the inky. And I have no idea how to convince it to move the thing over. It says don't do it manually. It says blah blah blah. It can mess up this, it can mess up that. So I have no idea. It knows it needs ink. And it won't slide over. So anyways, let's get to this. It's disc 7, season 6, episode 251. There's only 2 episodes on this disc before we move into. Do they even do? Does he do Descent? Let's see. Yeah, he does Descent. But he doesn't do part 2. There is no book 7. There is no season 7 book. I'm a little disappointed. And there's no Voyager books either. Like, what the? I could have used these. They could have been helpful to me. Oh, I wish I could play this and talk about it as it goes on. But obviously, like I said previously, I have no clue how to do that. So, we are on episode 251, brand new disc, only 2 episodes, Descent. And let's see, where were we? Timescape. Now, wasn't there another, I'm sorry, I'm inadequate, I didn't prepare properly, but I kept thinking the whole time I saw this title that there was, a sci-fi show with that title around some point, wasn't there? I'm sorry, I don't know off the top of my head, and I didn't prepare properly, for that. So, oh no, wrong one. I did it again. What is wrong with you? There we go. And she's playing with the wires again. Smokey. Okay. There's no overview for this one, so I guess we're jumping into the show. So Riker is in sickbay. Oh, you really did it this time, Will. This is not just a scrape, this is a very deep cut. Well, I can heal it, of course, but you've got to stop playing Parisi squares as if you're 21 years of old. One of these days you're going to fall and break your neck, and I'm not going to be able to heal that as easily. I wasn't playing Parisi squares. Wolf Calisthenics program? No. I give up. What was it? I was trying to feed Spot. Data's cat? I told him I'd feed him while he was gone. I was just putting the bowl of food down. The next thing I know, there's this hissing ball of fur coming at my face. I hate cats. I love cats, you know. You've just got to know how to handle them. Maybe you should do it. I would be honored if I could. And then Worf calls Riker to the bridge and he goes. So he goes to the bridge and Worf says, "We are picking up a distress call on long-range sensors. It's Romulan, sir." Romulan? They claim they have suffered a complete engine failure. Power levels are dropping. Life support is failing. It could be a trick. How long before you rendezvous with Captain Picard? 13 hours. Laying a course for the Romulan ship. Let's put up shields and go to red alert. Won't be ready for anything. Aye, sir. So, we get a voiceover from the captain. Oh, Captain's log, stardate 46944.2. Commander Data, Mr. LaForge, Council Troy, and I are en route to the Enterprise after attending a 3-day conference on the psychological effects of long-term deep space assignments. Data is activating helm control. So then they're all having. How big is that shuttle? How big is that shuttle? It doesn't look that big. When you've seen it on all the episodes, it's never this big. How big is that shuttle? I was just leaving the reception when this Katurian walks up to me and says, slightly Irish, "Hello, Diane. I understand you're an empath. I'm a very sensitive man myself. I'm doing a thesis on interspecies mating rituals. Would you care to join me for some empirical research?" That's a very good impression of Dr. Mazem. How did you know? He's notorious, but he's really an expert on interspecies mating practices. Did you help him with his research, counselor? Absolutely not. That clock is going to go off forever. Uh, I thought it was a topic you were interested in. How did you enjoy the rest of your conference, Jordy says. To be honest, I was bored. I spent most of my time at Professor Wagner's psychobiology seminar. I thought the idea of the seminar was that we would all participate, being different points of view to discussion. He gathered 200 scientists from all over the Federation, and all he did was put us to sleep. I have a memory of the entire lecture, Counselor. I can repeat the portions you missed if you. No, thank you, Data. Well, it was a little better than the physiognomy workshop Dr. Vastbinder gave, an hour-long dissertation on the ionization effect of warp nacelles before he realized that the topic was supposed to be psychology. Judy said, "Why didn't anybody tell him?" Picard says there was no opportunity. There was no pause. He just kept talking in one long, incredibly unbroken sentence, moving from topic to topic so that no one had a chance to interrupt him. It was quite hypnotic. Well, I had a great time. The Warp Energy Symposium was fascinating. I actually had an opportunity to touch a plasma field. What was that like? Troy asked. It was incredible. I could feel the plasma moving up my arm. And everybody stops. Everybody stops moving. And Troy's like, "Captain, Data." And Jody said, "Moved my chest incredible. It was like a pure path of energy." Shoot, gotta. So Geordi asks if the counselor is wrong, and they do a bioscan. They check out there's no physical abnormalities. If something did happen, it didn't leave any biological traces. She says, how long did it appear to you we were frozen? I don't know, 4, maybe 5 seconds? You just stopped and then started again. I can't explain it. My memory record does not indicate a pause or disruption during that time period. My internal chronometer and the ship's computer are perfectly synchronized. That there does not appear to be a temporal discrepancy. Let's run a shipwide diagnostic, Geordi says. So Geordi is running scans of everybody. How big is this shuttle? All the rooms are so huge. It's just a little place. It's just a little place. It's not big enough to have a lunchroom that big. So Picard and Deanna sit down and run through it again. She's telling the captain what happened. She's running through the steps again. So then she's in the middle of telling Picard what happened when she freezes. However, this time she freezes for 3 minutes 11 seconds. It appears to be the same effect you described to us. Do you remember anything? No. 1 second I was talking to you and the next you were all standing around me. Wait, a second? This is weird. What is it? I had the tricorder run a comparison between the bioscan I took of you earlier and the one I took just now. In the time between the two scans, you should have aged 23 minutes. But according to your cellular decay levels, you've only aged 20 minutes. How do you account for the discrepancy? I don't know, sir. It's as if Council Choi for 3 minutes time just stopped. Mr. Data, contact the Enterprise. Tell Commander Riker to meet us at the rendezvous point as soon as possible. Have him scan the region for temporal anomalies. Aye, sir. I'll check sensor logs, Geordi says. This shuttlecraft is. It's not a regular shuttlecraft. There's no way. Look how huge this place is. They got all that room in there. So then Data says the Enterprise is not responding to our hails. Are we in within sensor range? No, sir. Increase speed to the rendezvous coordinates. Aye, sir. We have engine failure. Warning in the report. Then the starboard nacelles just cut out. Attitude control has been restored. Full stop. What happened? So then the ship rocks back and forth and stuff like that, and they start twisty turning, and then the whole thing just stopped. And Jody says the starboard antimatter pad is completely drained. The fuel reserves are empty. Is there a fuel containment leak? No, sir. The containment field is intact. All engines operational. The fuel is just gone. They have fuel on a starship. What happened to that energy phaser thingy? Am I boring you, Mo? Yes, ma'am. I see you're here. You're being a good girl today. Yes, you are. Yes, you are. You're not eating any wires. Jody, I believe we have an explanation, Data says. According to the plasma conversion sensor, the starboard engine has been in continuous operation for 47 days. 47 days? That's wrong. Let's check. Alright, so the fruit's bad. His hand freezes when he tries to touch the fruit, and his fingernails grow. So then Data looks at the bowl of fruit, and it's like this. And they scan Captain Picard, and they say his metabolism has speeded up 50 times normal. and then it stabilizes again. And then they look at the fruit and it's decayed. Captain, I'm detecting a temporal disturbance intersecting the table. It appears that within the disturbance, time is moving at an accelerated rate, approximately 50 times faster than normal. The disturbance is spherical in shape. It extends outward from the hull, approximately 17 meters up from the ship. That would cover the starboard nacelle. No wonder it used up all its fuel. Check the hull integrity. It does not appear to be affected. Mr. LaForge, see if you can move us away from the disturbance. That is not the normal size of your cockpit. When they take those little shuttles, like when Picard and took Wesley, it was like this big. How is there so much room in there? But a whole bunch of stuff happens, and Jordy says the sensors are picking up temporal disturbances throughout the region. Different configurations, different sizes, they're everywhere. Within each disturbance, it appears that time is moving at a different rate. It's almost as if something has shattered the space-time continuum. The fragmentation effect continues along a heading of 270 Mark 15. That's the direction of the Enterprise. Can we navigate these fragments? We have to limit our maneuvering speed to 1/2 impulse. I think we can do it. Let's get to the Enterprise. So they go looking for the Enterprise and they can't find it. And then Geordi says, I've got the long range sensors on maximum, so there's no sign of the Enterprise, but I am picking up faint reading, possibly metallic. It's difficult to tell. The energy levels are practically existent. Take us to it. Aye, sir. Data says the fragmentation effect is increasing, slowing to 1/8 impulse. There she is. Let's go look. So they get there, and it looks like the Enterprise was firing on the Romulan thing, and they were stuck in a thing. Um, the fragments seem to be converging at this point. I'd say we're looking at the center of the temporal disturbances. Scan for life signs, Picard says. Sensors cannot penetrate the subfield. I'm unable to scan the vessels. It looks like the Enterprise was damaged there on the port nacelle. The warbird doesn't look like to have sustained any damage at all. I wonder if the Enterprise even had time to get a shot off. The Romulans could have decloaked before the Enterprise had a chance to respond. There's a second energy beam coming from the Enterprise deflector array. Do you have any idea what that could be? It's impossible to tell from a visual inspection. However, it appears to be focused on the Warbird's engine section. We're not going to be able to determine anything from here. We need to get on board the Enterprise. That would be inadvisable, sir. In each of the 3 instances, we came into contact with one of the temporal fragments. We were integrated into its time frame. If we beam aboard the Enterprise, we'd be frozen just like they are. We have to find some way of staying unfrozen, Mr. LaForge. What about a subspace force field like the one we used in Davidia 2? Could something like that protect us from the effects of the temporal fragment? Possibly. We need an awfully sensitive phase discriminator in order to moderate the field. Let's see. Let's move it forward a little bit. I like this group shot. Um, read that. Emergency transporter arm beams contain a Type 7 phase discriminator. It should be possible to reconfigure their subspace emitters. Yeah, that would work, Jordy says. Certainly isolate us from the effects of the other time frame. But if we wanted to interact with that environment, we'd have to restrict the field. It would have to be practically skin tight. Mr. Data, I will attempt to narrow the field, sir. Captain, I think this will work, but it's going to take some time. Well, Mr. Forge, it would seem that time is something we have plenty of. We have channeled all communications throughout subspace relays armbands. That way we'll all be able to continue communication. How long will the field last? Maybe an hour, maybe less. Don't worry, I'll monitor you carefully. Does that shuttle look like it has all those rooms on it? I'm just saying it doesn't look that big. And is that bigger than normal shuttles? I would swear that's not the same shuttle in the shuttle bay. And there's Geordi working on the armbands. So they beam over to the Enterprise, and I was wondering why they didn't take extra armbands for like maybe Riker, Worf, a few extra pertinent personnel maybe. But no, they just go with the three of them. They see this. They see that. There seems to be quite a few Romulans on the ship. That must have been nerve-wracking to have to sit there and not crack up when Data did this to her. There are 3 Romulans, all of them with disruptors, one at the con. There are none of our security officers on the bridge. They must have taken us by surprise. It appears they can move objects. We can move objects within this time frame. Maybe we could do something to help Will. I'm worried about making changes in this time continuum until we understand more of what's going on. Captain, the equipment is no longer functioning. However, the information currently displayed indicates there was a massive power surge in engineering. So they decide to go travel through the ship through the Jeffrey tubes. Beverly's being shot, but when Troy walks by this lady, she moves. No one else moves, but she moves. So I think the walking by with their emitter thingy is going to wake people up. Oh, gonna play innocent, are you? Gonna play with those plants. Where was I? I don't even know what I'm doing anymore. Then in engineering, Picard sees that Data was beaming Worf was beaming these guys over to the ship and they appeared injured. And Troy tells Captain Picard about Beverly being hit full on in the stomach by a phaser and doesn't know how she's going to survive all this. So Data has them come to engineering. What's the problem, Mr. Data? Captain, I believe I found the cause of the power surge. There is a warp core breach in progress. It's the flashpoint of a warp core explosion, and it is expanding. Expanding? I thought that time was suspended on the ship. We were incorrect, sir. I have determined this time is moving at an infinitesimal rate. Why didn't we notice it before? Our initial conclusion was based on our observation of the crew. A warp core breach moves at a much faster rate. The motion of the cloud is within my visual detection threshold. At its current rate expansion, it will consume the Enterprise in approximately 9 hours, 17 minutes. Is there anything we can do to stop it? It's no longer a question of stopping it, so the explosion may have already occurred. The fact that it's moving slowly changes nothing. Astonishing to see it frozen like this. Do we know what caused the breach? No. However, the console displays indicate a power transfer in progress. The Enterprise and Romulan ship at the moment time decelerated. That is why there is a second beam from the ship. Why would we be sending them? Perhaps we should go aboard the Romulan ship. The answer to our questions may be there. Captain? Captain, you're right. My head is dizzy. I can't. So they're back on the shuttle, and Geordi says, it looks like you aren't completely protected from the effects of the other time continuum. The neurophysical stress must have been overwhelming. In much the same way deep sea divers experiencing nitro narcissus, you experience a form of temporal narcissus. Can we modify the subspace isolators to give us better protection? I don't think so. I'd say the best thing to do right now is to be careful, limit our exposure to our time frame. I say no longer than 10 minutes per trip. We should stick together while we're there, just in case. Very well. The first step is to find out why the Enterprise was transferring power to the Romulan ship. I think we should begin our search in the Romulan engine room. Counselor, you spent several days on a Romulan vessel. You probably know more about the layouts than anyone. Captain, it might be better if you stayed here this time and give yourself a chance to relax. Very well. I'll monitor your progress from here. So then they beam over to the Romulan ship. So they Data and Troy look at one screen and says that they were not in war mode. They were in evacuation mode. And then Jordy says, "Come here, look at this. Whatever happened, this is beginning to look less and like a Romulan attack. Data, why don't we take a look at their engine readouts?" Jordy, the engine core is completely inactive. That's impossible. The Romulans use an artificial quantum singularity as their single power source. Once it's activated, it can't be shut down. Jody says, "Look at this. I think we found the problem." Data says it appears to be a highly focused aperture in space-time continuum. It's the energy signature that matches that of the temporal fragments we observed earlier. However, it's approximately 1.2 million times as intense. I believe this may be the origin of the temporal fragments. What are these dark spots? I'm not certain. They exhibit a complex bioelectric patterns, very possibly organic. Organic? Um, and then the Romulans start moving around. There's an energy buildup in the phase compensation unit. Check the main distribution max. That's not it. The max is clear. The power transfer from the Enterprise. I'm reading a massive feedback. Systems are beginning to overload. Notify the Enterprise to shut down the power transfer immediately. Unable to comply, their power intellects won't disengage. We have to disengage it ourselves. And they try and disengage it. Impending warp core breach. Shut down all systems. Picard watches as the Enterprise explodes, then reforms as time runs backwards again. The dialogue goes backwards until it stops where it previously was. Data says, "I believe my transporter missions caused the temporal aperture to activate. I suggest we avoid exposing it to any." So one of the Romulans in his movements touches Geordi. Geordi has a shake or whatever. So Troy removes his armband so he stays in stasis so that they may be able to restore him later. Because he's in neural shock. So they take the Romulan that touched him back to the shuttle. His cellular structure does not conform to any known species. His bioelectrical patterns are in a state of temporal flux. I do not believe this being is a native to our time continuum. Mr. Data, you said you found organic matter in the temporal aperture, correct, sir? I'd like to take a closer look at those readings. This is a biospectral analysis of the temporal aperture. The organic readings originated from these dark spots. They may appear to certain sum of energy patterns. Can you isolate them and magnify them? They look like cellular clusters. Its bioelectrical patterns are similar to those of the aliens. However, they are significantly less complex. Its cellular structure appears to be in a state of mitosis. Could this be some sort of embryo? Is it possible? It could further scan the aperture. It might be possible. So he wakes up. This body is not mine. It was necessary to assume to exist in your time. Why are you here? We had to save. We had to come to save them. They were in danger. Who were in danger? Our young. We will die in the gravity well. It's artificial. The artificial gravity well. Do you mean the Romulan engine core? Yes. Our young are trapped. We must get them out. Return to our time. His molecular structure is destabilizing. How were your young trapped in the core? We must use a natural gravity to incubate our young. We thought the Romulan core would be suffice. It did not. Captain, I believe the aliens mistook the artificial singularity which the Romulans use in their engine for a natural one, a black hole. They tried to use it as a nest. That's what deactivated Warbird's engine core, so the Romulans sent out a distress call. The Enterprise responded and found the Warbird suffering from an apparent engine failure, and they attempted a power transfer. A power transfer must stop the power transfer, rupture time, destroy our young. When the power transfer came into attack with the alien nest, I believe it disrupted the space-time continuum. Did you attack the Enterprise? Yes, we had to stop the power transfer. Are there any others like you? One other. Where is she? Could he help us restore normal time? And he vanishes. He disintegrates. So they're all talking about how to fix this. And um Picard wants to know if they can beam out the warp core. And Data's like, no, we would have to surround the core with a subspace isolation field. It's not possible to generate a field of that magnitude from the runabout. Um, they need to find out who the other temporal aperture is. Can they turn it back? Data says they could turn back time to a point where the warp core before the warp core breach occurred, and then find a way to prevent the power transfer. Then, when time goes forwards, the breach never happens. I could attempt to remodulate the tricorder's delta band emissions. It would be possible to better control the temporal aperture. Make it so. If it works, we may not have time to prevent the power transfer. We'll have to decide precisely where to be and where to do when the very instant time moves forward. Then we get a captain's log. Log supplemental. After placing the modified tricorder on the Romulan ship, we return to the Enterprise. So Deanna goes to sickbay and watches the beam go backwards into the tricorder. Everybody on the ship walks backwards. Data goes into engineering and the other alien touches him and he gets electrocuted and he passes out for 10 seconds, long enough for the guy to press the button for the transfer of power. So Data says, we must shut it down. The transfer beam is in saturation, so we can't disengage. Computer, place a level 3 containment field around the warp core. And he does that. All right, this is going to be really hard. I don't think I'm going to be able to pull this off. Because there's so much here. But, so Picard's on the Enterprise and he's, the con explodes and a Romulan takes the injured crewman's place. And Riker asks for damage report and he gets knocked down with the shifting. And the Romulan is helping him up. And Picard comes in and says, no time to explain, number one. Continue the evacuation of the Romulan ship. You'll find LaForge in the Romulan engine room. Beam him directly to sickbay. This is hard. So, we're in sickbay and Deanna knocks the gun out of the phaser out of the hand. And Beverly says, this is right, Deanna. He wasn't firing at me. There was an alien here who had taken Romulan form. I was firing at her. The doctor got in the way. Where did she go? Data reports that he was attacked by an alien, sir. He was unable to prevent the power transfer. It cannot be disengaged. A core breach is imminent. Can we move the ship? The feedback from the transfer beam would tear us apart. Patch me into navigational control of the runabout. Got it. Bring the runabout around. And flies the runabout into the power transfer thing, and the warbird vanishes. So with the cutting off the beam, it stopped the power transfer. The Romulan ship disappeared. All the Romulans on the ship disappeared. It appears that severing the power transfer has not only prevented the core breach, but has also restored space-time to normal. The alien who attacked me has vanished, sir. The warbird has vanished as well. Judging from the residual temporal fluctuations, I believe they have returned to their own time continuum. Captain, it's going to take some time to explain, number one. So then we get a voiceover from the captain. Captain's log stardate 46945.3. We successfully evacuated the crew of the Romulan ship, and we are on course to the neutral zone to bring them home. So Riker goes into Data's quarters very cautiously, asking where Spot is. And Data tells him that Spot is sleeping. And Riker says he has the new rotation schedules. I'd like to cross-check the personal assignments and notify the department heads. Your shift begins at 2300 hours. Data puts a pot of tea on the stove, water kettle, whatever. What are you doing? Recent events have compelled me to study how humans perceive the passage of time. For example, I've heard people often comment that time seems to pass more slowly in one instance or more quickly in another. In actuality, the time of passage remains fixed. I suppose it depends on how people perceive time, Riker says. Every situation is different, depends on how you feel about it. I've been testing the aphorism, a watch pot never boils. I boiled the same pot of water in this kettle 62 times. I've ignored the kettle, others I've watched it intently. In every instance, the water boils in 51.7 seconds. It appears that I am not capable of perceiving any time differently. Why don't you turn it off? Data, people do not have internal chronometers. Why don't you see what happens if you turn yours off? Thank you, sir. I will try that. And that's the end. So that's the end of Timescape. Please join me as we start season 7 next week with Descent Part 1, Episode 252. Please hit the like and subscribe. Watch If Then later this afternoon. Watch Flashback Monday. Watch my daily book reviews. Have a good one. Oh, wait a minute. I forgot the... While returning to the Enterprise, Troy notices that fellow travelers Picard, Data, and LaForge momentarily freeze. Then Diana does the same while the others remain normal. Soon Data and LaForge discover that temporal distortions fill the area of space. Rendezvousing with the Enterprise, the group find it trapped along with a Romulan warbird and a very slow-moving packet of time. Plot oversights. At one point before the group rendezvous with the Enterprise, Picard reaches out for a bowl of fruit. He immediately screams in pain and retracts his now sports fingernails 1/2 inch long. Um, Takes a tricorder reading and states that the metabolism of the cells in his hand is 50 times faster than normal. As she continues to take readings, it slows back down. Data comes in and reports that Picard pushed his hand into a temporal distortion, in which time accelerated approximately 50 times normal speeds. In other words, every second Picard had his hand in the distortion was equivalent to 50 seconds in normal time. So far, so good, except that time between Picard's scream and Troy's proclamation that hand has returned to normal. No more than 30 seconds. The acceleration means hand was accelerated for 30 seconds, which means 30 seconds times 50 or 25 minutes. Can Picard really grow fingernails 1/2 inch long in 25 minutes? Part of the tension of this episode comes from the fact that the viewer doesn't know if the Romulans attacked the Enterprise. To add to this tension, the creators show us pictures of Romulans with disruptors on the bridge and in sickbay. On the other hand, Worf and 2 security officers stand in Transporter Room 3 with phasers at the ready as 3 unarmed Romulans prepare to step off the transporter. Later, the show reveals that the Enterprise was in fact evacuating the Romulans from the disabled ship. If that's true, why are there 3 Romulan disruptors on the bridge and in sickbay? Romulans, after all, are still the enemy, and even if you are on a mission of mercy, you do not let the enemy board with a weapon. Change premises. Suddenly, Lieutenant Commander Deanna, what's a containment breach? Troy seems to have become an engineering expert on the Romulan propulsion. She's come a long way in her understanding of the technical matters since disaster. In that episode, Troy assumes command of the Enterprise when a quantum filament slams the ship and she ends up as the highest ranking officer on the bridge. During her command, Rowe discovers a weakening of the anti-containment field, and O'Brien states it fails in 15%. The field will collapse and we'll have a containment breach. Troy then asks what a containment breach is. The scene gives the impression that Troy is not exactly up to speed on how the engine works, yet here she gives detailed technical advice to Data and Geordi. Continuity and production problems. After Data discovers the warp core breach, he summons Picard. Picard examines the frozen explosion for a few moments and then reaches up and doodles a drawing in the expanding particles. It's amazing how icons become lodged in the subspace conscious of an entire race, lying dormant until exposed by high levels of stress as Picard awaits the explosion destined to destroy the ship. He doodles a happy face. That round, yellow, smiling caricature so popular years ago. I would have thought the happy face would have been long since forgotten. I guess that's amazing of the human race. There you go. Have a good one.